Well, welcome back, everybody, for another session of It's Not Just Hot Air with the Pilot Group. And with me today, we have our resident podcast interviewer or interviewee, Josh from the Pilot Group. And we've also, this morning, we have Gary Sams from Fusion4Business.
Good morning.
Good morning, both. How are you?
Very well, very well.
Good. Gary, you were saying just before we came on, you've never been on a podcast before.
No, so maybe the first, maybe the last. I don't know. We'll soon see.
I've got faith.
Got faith. Wonderful.
I think it's going to be absolutely cracking. So Gary, you are head of the Business Ambassador Program.
Yes.
For your organisation.
Yes.
So why don't you give us a little bit of background to you first?
Right. Okay.
And where you've been before and what brought you to this place.
Right.
And then let's talk a little bit about your role.
Yes. Fantastic. Basically, first of all, thanks for the invite.
Okay.
It's good to be here. Travelled down this morning from Durham, as you can tell by the tone, my dulcet tones. Basically, my background is probably been along for about 24 years in wealth management for Lloyds Bank. I stopped working took my redundancy 2012, 2013. Unfortunately, at that stage, I had quite a serious illness. Took time out, and then I got invited to go along to work for an energy consultancy. Now, at that point, I didn't have any knowledge at all in the energy market, and they were wanting me to manage a team of about 12 to 15 people. How could I do that with no energy experience? Because there'll be some clever so-and-so in the background saying, what do you know about this? What do you know about that? And it's very embarrassing when you say nothing. So I did the energy consultancy role for about a year. As you can possibly gather, I can talk to people. That's quite unique out there at the moment. My role has always been a face-to-face role. So, and then I worked for a large energy consultancy who were doing really, really well at the time. Unfortunately, my health issue came back to haunt me. So I took time out, and then I got contacted by our now CEO and MD, Chris Charlton and Paul Flankenstein. And I think, in fairness, the energy market is quite fraught with issues at the moment, going back, hopefully not with ourselves, but really what happened is I don't think I would be in the energy market if it wasn't for the offering that Fusion4Business make. And I don't say that lightly. I genuinely mean that. But the Business Ambassador Program, I went to work for Fusion4Business in 2022. And basically worked in the office, and then they said, would I run the Business Ambassador Program? And I jumped at the chance. And quite simply, I'm still an energy consultant as such, but we are quite unique in the marketplace. The Business Ambassador Program, we also have a Community Ambassador Program, and quite simply what we do at a time where organisations need assistance, help to reduce their energy costs, the Business and Community Ambassador Program enables us to generate a new income stream for businesses and charities as well. So really we're just utilising the knowledge that businesses have and charities have. They do introductions, and we obviously will reward them for those introductions, but making sure at the same time that we do the job the way it should be done.
So it's sort of a win-win scenario. Almost.
Absolutely, yeah.
They win, you win.
We like to think so, yes.
Yeah.
100%.
Sort of real solid sort of partnership.
Yes.
Yeah. Fantastic. The last 2 years, if we look at the energy market, it looks like it's been really volatile. What have you experienced? What have you experienced over the last 2 years? Because it's become a really hot topic.
Right.
Everyone's talking about it.
Yeah, of course.
But actually, your boots on the ground, you're seeing it from the ground level.
Well, I think we're in a consultancy compared to in my opinion, our opinion, the broker model. We're considerably different to that. Now, what we've seen is, if you can go back to 2019, where we kind of started as a business, we've had COVID, and we've also had the energy crisis.
Yeah.
So we've kind of seen anything and everything in the last
What a time to start.
And you probably hope that you're not going to see anything like that again.
Please no. But we've stood the test of time, in fairness, and we're kind of thriving at the moment, and that's because of the model we have in place. So going back, if you look at, I remember working for a previous organisation, if you looked at an electricity rate of about 12p during the energy crisis, that was went up to about 75p. So how did they expect businesses to survive? And obviously,
Massive impact, yeah.
unfortunately, a lot went by the wayside, which is very, very sad. Very sad indeed. So we've seen it all in the last number of years, but where a lot of businesses are kind of getting back to what I said before, we're pretty much thriving at the moment, because we like to think we've got a lot of strings to our bow and we can support businesses right the way across the line.
It's a word I use quite a bit, but and almost with your proposition, Josh, it's almost like what you're delivering is a service. I get that, but what you're giving people is certainty.
Of course,
it's that, yes, we're going to make those savings, or we're going to give you certainty and best practice.
Yes.
And this is what you should do, because as you said right at the beginning, you're now the expert, but the people you talk to aren't experts around energy.
Yeah,
and so it must give you a really sort of good, strong bond with those people when you say, look, this is what you need to do and this is what the outcome will be.
Yeah.
You've done that learning journey with them through, coming into the energy market, and certainly I've had to as well, in learning how it operates and the solutions out there, the products out there, the businesses out there.
Yes.
And could you also tell us a bit about how you say it's a unique offering at Fusion for Business? Because I've listened to you speak about it before, and I think it's great the way that the business approaches conversations which maybe in the past have been approached differently by certain organisations.
Yeah, if you go back a number of years, and I keep going back a number of years, is quite simply what used to happen is the broker model. We've seen they've lost a lot of brokerages fall away. And basically, it was just based around procurement, energy procurement. So looking at contracts, unfortunately making commission from those contracts, rightly or wrongly in many cases. What we introduced is a unique solution. We have a yesterday, today, tomorrow.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that, because you've got that on your website. And when I was reading through and researching about your business, I love the yesterday bit.
Yes.
I think it's. I'm thinking, okay, how do you narrate that as such?
Right. I'll use a few examples if I can, with obviously not mentioning the businesses involved. But I'll mention our partner, Apex Litigation, and we've looked around to see who can give us not just ourselves but our clients the strength and depth and the credibility to go out and claw back which is tens of thousands of businesses and even charities, unfortunately, who've been missold energy contracts. Now, what they can actually do is, I think it was a case of a little bit like the old PPI scenario, where solicitors, legal people jumped on board and said, well, but they didn't really understand what made up an energy contract. They didn't really understand the pitfalls, and they didn't really know how to go about it. So a normal energy claim, the yesterday solution, would take years. What we've done, Apex Litigation, they have a large number of legal people, solicitors, who fit in with each sector. So it could be engineering, could be manufacturing, could be a charity, could be hospitality, anything along those lines. And quite simply what they do, I think it's pre-October 22, beforehand there was no disclosure. So what happens was, an energy broker would go out, I've got the best thing since sliced bread here, the best deal on the table, but they weren't disclosing what commissions and uplift had been put into an energy contract.
So there was no transparency?
No.
Right, okay.
And getting back to that as well, a couple of years ago, the new ADR scheme came in, and we support it fully because of the transparency. It was built around transparency. And what I mean by that is, any disclosure, anything which is made from an energy contract has got to be disclosed upfront. The customer needs to know. So that's why we kind of built on our yesterday, today, tomorrow solution, because businesses don't mind paying commission as long as they know they're getting value for money.
Yeah.
And the value for money could be any one of our services. Our claims process at the moment is fantastic. It's working really, really well. And quite simply, we've got claims. The average claim, I think I'm led to believe, is around £70,000.
Whoa.
Now, that's a massive windfall back to a business. Unfortunately, it's been done the wrong way. They've paid it already.
Yeah.
But it's nice to get that money back.
And what's the timescale of those sort of claims?
Well, at the moment,
how long is that taking businesses?
At the moment, I would probably put the litigation team will probably correct me on this, but I would say in the region of 6 to 9 months.
Okay.
And in fairness, we can even get indicative figures of how much the claim is worth within 48, 72 hours now.
Quick.
So, and how do we do that? If a broker isn't around anymore, it's not the broker sold the product, but the supplier has been aware of it as well. So it's a kind of a double-edged sword as such. Yeah.
Yeah, really interesting. And I can imagine any business that's listening to this podcast right now, and you're purporting to say those sort of savings, as you say, that's a massive recall back onto the bottom line. Businesses can invest.
Apologies as well. Basically, what it is that they will most likely be at least guaranteed the commission, which was back, which is if there's been no non-disclosure, and they can provide contracts, letters of authorization, etc., etc. And that's normally pre-October 22 going backwards, and there's many claims. The good thing is what they'll probably be guaranteed is at least the commission back.
Yep.
And then you can imagine they've paid way and above over the top for the energy contracts, so there's kind of rescission in there as well. But no, it's a fantastic opportunity, even though it's been done incorrectly initially.
Well, thanks. I mean, you've perfectly articulated what the yesterday proposition is.
Thank you.
I think that was really good.
Yeah, definitely. And do you find that then builds you a level of trust when you look at contracts going forward for people in procurement, that you've helped them with and showed them where the lack of transparency was previously, and then you show them where the transparency is today?
Yeah. The transparency guidelines, as I said, goes back a couple of years. I think I'm right in saying there was between 5,500 and 6,000 energy brokers out there. There's a lot less than that now, and I think it's fair to say there's about 300, and we're one of the organisations who signed up to the new transparency guidelines. So really, we're delighted with that, in fairness, but I think it's all about trust. A lot of times I go in and you kind of, when you mention the word energy, my first conversation is kind of apologetic, if that makes sense. I'm sorry I'm in the energy market, but this is what we do. So trust, you might have had 2 appointments, but it could run to 5, 6, 7 appointments. But once they hear what we're doing and looking at the case studies and everything else we're doing, it's very rewarding, and as possibly I'm quite passionate about it. Yeah,
well, you almost fall in the same sort of camp as the pilot group, because it's almost one of the challenges we've had working with pilot groups is it's almost too good to be true.
Yeah.
And people just want to cut through that, and they want to understand that authenticity of the proposition and believe that. And as I said, we'll come on to some case studies in just a little bit. Where's the energy market right now? In relation to the volatility, and if we sort of look at it over the next 12 to 18 months, is it still quite volatile? What do you see?
I think we gauge a lot of our, in the banking world, is I used to base it on timing and term. When's the right time to invest? How long do I invest for? But timing and term is pretty much similar to the energy market. So we base a lot of our recommendations on not sign here on the dotted line, stretch your contract as far as you possibly can, because all that basically does or did is give rewards to the person who's setting up the contract. So the longer the term of the contract, the more money they will make. So we base a lot of our information on government information and supplier information, and we will justify why we have selected a term of 2 years or 3 years or 4 years. Where's the market now? I think do I say going down any further than what it is now? I think we're in the new normal now. Hopefully it will go down, fingers crossed, and that will give greater satisfaction to businesses and charities, etc. But if you look at what we said before, is we've seen rates go up to 70, 75 pence per kilowatt hour for electricity, and you can probably get a rate in between 20 and 25p now. So there's been a dramatic drop. Gas, we've seen rates of 20 pence per kilowatt hour. You're looking at 5, 6 pence, 7 pence per kilowatt hour now. But everything we do is pretty much bespoke, so we'll line it up with the business needs, not our needs, not anyone else's needs. It's what's right for that organisation. We're hoping that with the new government come in, that they will obviously put their own stamp on what their plans are, so we'll wait and see as far as that's concerned. But it has settled a lot, but it's still probably 10, 11 pence more than what the rates were 3, 4, 5 years ago.
I think business can accept that, and obviously we've had a level of high inflation as well, ongoing costs, but I think businesses can deal with what they know.
Yes.
It's when you're being hit with those inflationary costs, as we saw, and it absolutely destabilises the businesses, the market. Where is this going to go?
Yeah.
A massive. I know some people have had millions of pounds worth of additional costs.
Yes.
Actually had to pay just on utilities.
Yeah, we've seen loads of it. We've seen some businesses in the peak of the crisis have a tenfold increase in cost. And I know when you say you plan for it, you can only plan for so much as well. Like a tenfold increase to a business is crippling. You suddenly, if you can suddenly kind of pluck that revenue out of thin air, your business is probably doing okay in terms of being able to generate that additional revenue to cover those costs. But you obviously want that revenue to be going towards development of your business going forward, not
it's
to
the
just
erosion
paying
of your profit.
not just paying a cost which is mandatory to you to operate.
I think you're exactly right. It's been game changing, really, hasn't it? And unfortunately, a lot of cases, businesses have had to close the doors. We did a bit of a survey looking at moving on to the charitable sector, and if you looked at something as far down as the village halls, community halls, etc., about 70% of those were having to close their doors because they couldn't afford their energy costs. Now that is a community-based opportunity for many people, and people relied on that kind. So we pretty much look at it gauged on any size of business. Whether they've got 1 metre or 100 metres, it makes no difference. We'll still do exactly the same role for those. And but trying to tenfold price increases is just impossible in many cases to justify or to comprehend, really.
Well, hopefully the future's more promising with it. Probably the information I've come across, I am no expert, but I've seen similar to what you've said, that this could be similar to the new norm. It might drop a bit, but it's dependent on, we speak about volatility of the world. No one knows what's going to go on in the world. No one has that crystal ball, but we are going to have to get used to, a new normal, because the likelihood is they'll never go back to what we had.
I think in fairness to the government at the time, and I have no political route forward at all. I have my own thoughts, but with the support that the government gave at the time, it made a huge difference. But in fairness, my way of thinking is, should it have ever got to that stage? But I don't know.
Well, there were outside, obviously, influences with the conflict in Ukraine and Russia, and that obviously hiked prices and created a massive issue. Let's just shift a little bit in relation to, a case study or something that you've been super proud of as a business. You obviously are doing this day in, day out, but there must have been some things that are really you're particularly proud of. And
I think the main ones I can think of, and I was actually speaking to a well-known charity in the northeast of England yesterday, as it happens, is when it doesn't necessarily make it right, but our yesterday solution is based around reclaim. Let's get that money back into the business. Let's support them as best we can. Going back 6 years, in some cases up to 10 years. The today's solution is based around energy procurement. Now we will work directly with suppliers on a bespoke basis. Not a comparison website, which there are a lot of those out there. That doesn't make that wrong, by the way. And if you look at the tomorrow solution, is based around energy reduction. Now the government and the wisdom, and I always say this, a couple of years ago said the energy hike is here to stay. The only way you're going to reduce your energy costs is by reducing your consumption, which is where the pilot group, the Green Shield group, the et cetera, come into play. So we've got dozens and dozens of cases and I'll use an engineering company who are based in Grays in London. I'll not mention the name. So basically what we've done for them is we've looked at their billing. We'll do a full bill validation from start to finish. So we'll basically see where their contract is at the present time, who they're with, who they work with, etc. So straight away we identified for those that they'd been missold an energy contract. So the yesterday solution comes in, get our litigation team involved, and they will get in the region of about £80,000 back, okay, because they've been missold over a long period of time and they weren't aware of it. The today's solution, they were on the wrong style of contract, which basically means it wasn't suitable for their business at all, because it was based around when the business was open, and during the high level cost times, the business wasn't even running, so they were in deficit pretty much straight away. So we've done a little bit of a contract comparison for them as well, and we will save them in the region of £30,000 to £35,000 straight away by reducing the costs, reducing the standing charges, and taking them off a tariff which really isn't feasible for them. Mm-hmm. So the savings we've made there from the yesterday solution, the savings we've made of the today solution, how we're going to reduce your consumption. So we bring our partners in, our IEM 360 team, who will basically look how we can do it. And what we've basically done is we're putting a solar project in place, which will, again, reduce their consumption, on average figures 35%, but it's been paid for by the reclaim, yesterday solution, and the savings they made on their energy contracts. So absolute win right the way across the board.
And of course, working with people like Pilot Group and that collaboration, and if you start bringing in the savings that your application or your products are saving as well, it's like that they must think that you're the best thing since sliced bread, almost, like to come in. It's like so fresh. Yeah,
it's fresh. And I met Josh and the Pilot Group through the Greater Manchester Chamber of Commerce, through a friend of ours, Simon Bancroft. And basically, my opinion is I've always based my career on collaboration and partnerships. The Pilot Group, the way they fall into place, it's quite a niche product. Would you agree, Josh?
Exactly.
Yeah, so it's quite a niche product, but there's very few products out there which can reduce gas consumption. Yes, it's all right hitting lucky with gas rates at the right time, the contract fall in place at the right time, but if we can reduce gas consumption, which obviously reduce costs, it's a win-win situation. It's all about the trust thing. So really, that's where the Pilot Group fall nicely into place, and we would have no hesitation in using them when the right opportunity comes along.
Yeah. So what we've always said, we're one part of a bigger picture in terms of a bigger partnership. We're one cog in a wheel. Yeah. And we know finding the right partners is also a challenge in itself, because you want businesses that you can trust and rely on. And that's where we've developed relationships with people like yourselves and Green Shield Group, because you know that they're going to deliver on what you say. And that's a big point for us, because it's why we put the guarantee on our savings, and why I know IEM 360 do. Yeah. And I also love the bit that you can pay for future savings, basically, by the stuff that you manage to reclaim for someone. So they can... it's great. You either have that money in your business now, and sometimes the business may need that as liquid money in the business, or you can also have these periods of investment where you can then realize savings for year after year after year for a business. And then what else could there be in terms of future products after that, or future renewables, or future energy reduction, carbon reduction? You open the door for a wealth of opportunities from just that first piece of work.
I think you're exactly right, Josh. I think the main factor as well is having everything. How often do we, if we go to a bank for a loan, that's all they can do for you for a loan. They've got no other kind of services, and we've kind of yesterday, today, tomorrow kind of encompasses everything within the energy. We've got some fantastic partners on board. We really, really have.
Yeah, I see the strength in that. Since we've been involved with Pilot Group, some of the guests we've had on the podcast, and the evolving story as we've become to uncover and understand the industry, the outcomes. Do you see a lot of complacency? Do you see a lot of people that don't take your calls, who don't listen to you, just say, no, we're fine, thank you, because they don't believe it? You can do the things you say you can do. Or procrastination. Do you see people, call me next month? Do you see that?
I think really we've seen that for many times. We're not a direct cold calling organisation. Yes, we do some, but we have a lot of strategies in place, a lot of opportunities. We're doing a lot of work in the education sector at the moment. And as soon as people see a lot of the case studies which we're generating at the moment, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Really powerful. So, yes, the old model of the broker is pretty much when's your energy contracts due. It's a lot different to that now.
Yeah.
And you've got to be quite thick-skinned in the energy sector. But the conversations we're having now are immense.
Yeah,
compared to
fantastic.
where it was 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Because what we can do is roll out the testimonials, roll out the savings that we've made other organisations,
Yeah.
right the way across the board, and then basically that gains trust.
Yeah.
And it's a fact-finding mission, really, isn't it?
Well, storytelling is the best form of communicating and creating empathy and emotional engagement. People listen to that, so I can see that's quite powerful. Before we wrap, let's say we're sitting here in 5 years' time. Where's it all going? Where do we think it? Where are the changes in the industry? Is it going to be more renewables? Is it all going to be more around how legislation changes? Where do you see this all going to?
Well, I think there'll obviously be legislation changes. Obviously, the business to business, business to charity energy market isn't really, I wouldn't say compliant, but it's not regulated.
Okay.
As is domestic and residential. I think that will happen moving forward. There'll be some further regulations fall in place to move aside the people who aren't doing the job the way it's meant to be done. Renewable energy, sustainable energy. We have our IEM 360 team who are putting a lot of net zero plans in place. Now, I know the new government has they want to bring forward the net zero targets to 2030, I believe. So that's going to have a big impact.
It's ambitious.
It's very ambitious, isn't it? Very ambitious.
We'd love to see it to be realised. It is just a very ambitious target, and it's going to take a lot of partners, businesses, and proactivity, I think, from a lot of people to get there, and hopefully we can.
Yeah,
I think you'll see a building momentum. I think that will happen over time. But
there's been so many changes, and people have different views, and people have different ideas. Legislation has got to change in favour of the consumer, the people who are using the energy out there. I was talking to a charity yesterday, for example, and if you look at a bill, part of the bill validation we do, they were even paying 20% VAT when they should be paying 5% VAT. When you pay 5% VAT, you negate the factor of CCL on the bills. Now, they were paying about £1,500 a month, CCL, and they didn't need to. Mm-hmm. Suppliers won't sort that out.
No.
That's what we're there to do. I would even go as far as saying 90% of the time I can look at an energy bill, and whether they use our services or not, or they qualify for the services or not, we can point them in the right direction.
Yeah.
But legislation changes huge. Renewable energy, huge moving forward. The higher energy rates, where they were a couple of years ago, hopefully have gone.
Yeah.
But I think we're at the new normal now, or there or thereabouts. Hopefully they'll come down a little bit more. So obviously businesses, organisations are looking for opportunities to reduce the consumption, and that's when the renewable energy sources come in as well.
Yeah.
Sure. I think before I know we're running out of time with it, but when you were talking about bills and being able to look at it, have you got any key takeaways for business that say what they should look for themselves? Because I know it's not always the most easy thing to digest.
Well, I think the main one is your VAT level, your CCL levels. Are they correct, in line with your business type or charity type? What are the rates compared to where the market is now? When is your contract due for renewal? And what I mean by that is we're quite smart, and we will provide a business or an organisation a full bill validation, but more ongoing market reports. So really getting back to what I said before, it's all about timing and term. It's when's the right time to look at it. For example, a lot of people will say if their contract ends in the winter period, supply and demand is a lot different. Is that always going to be the case? It hasn't always been the case, but at least we can go off supplier information, look at the term which is right for the business, looking at the VAT, the CCL, supplier credibility as well. And the good thing is we can also look at, a lot of people aren't aware of, have they been missold or not. A fantastic tool that Apex Litigation have brought to the table is they can look back at any period of time and see what the base rates are or should have been on someone's energy contract, and work out to the nth degree how much uplift's been put in the contract. Then it's kind of, right, did you know that? We'll get the money back.
Fantastic. Well, look, I think that's been a great episode. I found it hugely interesting. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. If anybody's interested and thinks they need to talk to you, what's the best way? Who do they talk to?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn, as I said before. Myself and social media aren't a match made in heaven, but I would.
We might have to change that.
Yeah, might have to change that. Yeah, I would basically contact us through my email or my direct line into work. We have offices in Manchester and in Durham as well. Do you want me to hand my email address out now?
Let's put it out now. Come on,
right.
to the stars.
Fantastic. It's Gary, that's Gary .Sams, that's SAM for mother, S, at Fusion4Business.co.uk. Direct line 01207 769 203.
Fantastic.
Well, we'll make sure we put it in
Thank you very much.
That's a great advert. Guys, thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you.
And everybody watching, I hope you found that interesting, and we'll see you next time.